Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Shawn, the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life and always remind you to enjoy the ride. Hello, and welcome back to the Inner Blueprint Podcast, the podcast for the home improvement industry and anyone and everyone that's looking for good ideas for better mindset to get better results. I'm your host, Shawn, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host and wife,
Kaitlin.
And today we're going to do a little bit of a reset with our podcast. And life is interesting, isn't it, Kaitlin?
To say the least, right?
What's the one thing that we've decided is just constant in our life?
Change,
right? Everything is always changing, from our personal life, our professional life, you name it. Everything's in motion all the time.
It's like the one guarantee. Change, is going to happen. It's going to. So it's, what do you do with it? What do you do with change?
What do you do? And an analogy I like to use in my coaching is change creates movement and movement creates friction.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting if you take a deep dive. What are you going to do with the friction? Because every time we have change, we're going to have some friction. And I found if we push against the friction, we create more friction. And if we work with it, flow with it, it's not good, it's not bad, just is. How are we going to work around this? We're able to embrace change and actually get the most good, the most growth out of the changes that are happening around us.
Oh, it's so true. It's funny because, both of us are behavior analysts as well, and there are some profiles that love change. I'm one of those profiles. I change things just to change things. It could be working perfectly, and I want to switch it up. But I say I love change, but sometimes I don't.
I mean, we could dive in this episode. You've had some change come up that was challenging for you, even though you thrive in change. And this is one, before we dive into it, I want to kind of set the stage. Because when we're talking about resistance and change, there's two areas we receive resistance. One is external, right? We're dealing with something on the outside that is changing, and there's a physical obstacle in front of us that we're going to have to deal with. But sometimes that resistance comes from inside. Sometimes the path is wide open for the change, but we run into that internal resistance. And to me, that's where we go to Inner Blueprint, we go to our mindset, and we say, okay, if I'm getting internal resistance to this, maybe there's some growth in it. And for you, Kaitlin, we've run into both, right? You're in a situation and you're getting outside, inside. It's kind of that process and awareness to say, okay, what can I control, me, and I can work on my resistance. But the outside, I can't control it. I can't change it. And I think...
And that's what I love too, like, what we show, E+R=O, right? That's something that we live by every day, because the events in life, they're constantly changing. We have no control over that, but how we choose to either react or respond, that's our internal dialogue, that our inner blueprint that's kind of guiding that creates the result.
100%, the outcome.
Yes.
The outcome. And again, that is the mathematical equation to stay in control in any situation. E+R=O. E, events in life. We think we control them, but you think about right now.
I don't control my kids.
We do not control our children.
Okay,
we love the shit out of them, but we don't control them. The economy, the election, the weather, those are all external forces that they're on their own path, and we get to interact with them. And so the first step in dealing better with change is understanding this formula. The events in life are just happening. And then it's the R in the equation, which can be one of two things: reaction, when it's from a programmed emotional state. We get upset, we get frustrated, we push against the event that we don't control, trying to control it. Or we pause, we respond. The R stands for respond when you use it powerfully. And then you're able to create a better outcome. Now, we've lost loved ones. Like it's hard to create a better outcome out of loss, but you can create a better outcome for you in the way you feel about the situation. First thing coming to mind, and I want to get back to talking about the podcast and the shift here, but we had a once in a lifetime trip this summer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Amazing.
I mean, a good friend and client of ours reached out to Miss Kaitlin and offered us to come with his family on a Caribbean
Yacht.
And had you thought about that before it was invited to
Well,
us?
what's so
What about
interesting
mindset?
and going into our inner blueprint, right? We have a tool within our inner blueprint program called the life script letter. It was something that you originally got from Jack Canfield, correct?
Yeah.
So Jack Canfield years ago, and I hadn't ever written one. I just always watched yours. I taught people how to do it, but I had never sat down and actually written mine out. And then I decided earlier this year to do that. So I sat down, what do I want? What does my movie or what does my life look like as a movie? And I'm the main character. And that can be scary sometimes, right? To think those thoughts isn't scary, but to write it down.
The scary part of it is, and the life script is you writing a future version of your life exactly the way you want it in present tense. But for you, Kaitlin, you spent a lot of your time being a supporting actor. You weren't the star, even though you were. And I think for you, taking that reframe and saying, okay, this is my movie. This is my life script. I get to be the center of attention here. And that's why it took you, 4 years?
Yeah, it took me about 4 years to finally write it. And I realized I had some paradigms. This is kind of squirreling for a moment, but I was an honors student. I got state highs in English and writing in my ACT test. And so I thought, when I write this has to be perfect.
Yeah, I'm going to get graded on this.
I did. And no one was going to grade me but myself. But I was like, this has to be perfect. But finally, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I wrote it down. And one of the things in there I wrote, because I always, I love to travel. And so it was, we travel private. I like, as Miss Patty Aubrey taught me, to fly in planes without seat numbers.
And she didn't mean Southwest.
And she did not mean Southwest. And another thing was cruising around the Caribbean. I wrote cruising around Caribbean for weeks at a time because I think the Caribbean is just such a beautiful space. And so I wrote those things down. And within 2 weeks,
I got a phone call.
Got a phone call from our really good friend.
We got an invite.
And it was amazing. And I was like, okay, I can't ever doubt how powerful I am. Just like you can't ever doubt how powerful you are. You truly can't, because we create our own lives. We create our own reality. And some people might be like, you're crazy. You live in a dream world. And yes, I do, 100%.
Because you create in your mind every single day with dreams.
And so it was this dream trip, and we get there and everything is perfect until we get on the yacht and it's broken. The yacht is broken.
No AC first.
No AC first. Then a generator goes out. And so,
2 days later, we've been, instead of staying on the boat, going to a hotel.
All over.
Shuttled all over this mountain. They're trying to line up day excursions to keep us entertained while they try and get the boat ready.
And some people would be like, oh my gosh, this is so frustrating. But like for me personally, I was like, this is great. I don't even remember the island we were on.
We had no idea where we were.
Such a great time.
Well, and the people we're with, our good friend DJ, his beautiful wife Tara, daughter Abby,
and Kayla.
And
everyone. It was awesome.
They've been in our program, and DJ has E+R=O tattooed on his wrists. And this was a once-in-a-lifetime trip. He'd been planning this trip for his children for 20 years. And we get there, and the boat is broken. And the captain, the first mate, they're all expecting everybody to be upset. And it was so cool to see not only us respond, but this whole family respond and say, you know what? This is happening to us or for us, not to us, right?
Yeah, not to us. Definitely for us.
And it ended up being that, long story short, the broker that he got the boat through comped the whole trip and brought a catamaran in. We had a different trip than we planned, and they said, come back next year. But just an amazing example of one thing, E+R=O, and change. That whole trip changed. They had shirts made with the boat.
Yeah, with the actual picture of the yacht. And I had swag made. The name of our trip, we called it Someday Came, right?
Yeah,
and we
because
were
it was
so
a Someday
excited.
Island type trip. Someday I'm going to do this, someday. And we actually were able to do it. We were on a different boat that was on the printed material, but everybody there made the best of it. And
it was so fun. It was such a, and I love, you went back and you said a once in a lifetime trip, but that just goes to prove like that was a paradigm of yours and of DJ's at some point, right? Like this is a once in a lifetime trip. Well, nope, we get to do it again.
Next year, and who knows what the possibilities.
So never say never.
Yeah. So going back, and obviously there's lots of things, listeners, you can think about in your life where change has happened. You initially resisted it. And then at some point down the road, you look back and said, wow, that actually happened for me and my family. And going back to this podcast, it's been a couple of years ago, and I used mindset to first create Enjoy the Ride, the podcast.
Yes.
I'd been talking about it. I had a client say, hey, I got a studio here in Utah County. We can go to it every week. We can record episodes. So we started down the journey. We launched Enjoy the Ride. And at that time, I was working and we were working with contractors, but we wanted to take the message wider. So we created
Yes.
Enjoy the Ride. And we said, we can deliver this message to everybody, but it's hard to deliver the message to everybody. And we started finding we wanted to simplify, and then change happened. Then change happened. Our beautiful host, gonna get emotional. She was. I'll never forget. We were actually on a once in a lifetime trip.
Another once in a lifetime
They keep
trip.
happening, you guys. Celebrating my 50th birthday in Greece, and I woke up to news all over social media that our beautiful host had been in a horrible biking accident. She went over the handlebars and she was paralyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and immediately the thought was her. I remember feeling selfish to hear I'm on vacation and my poor beautiful friend is in a hospital bed, and that can be a whole other episode because I'd love to get Heidi on at some point. Her and I have talked about it because she's battled her way back. She's actually, functioning. I think she was told originally she wouldn't walk. She's definitely walking.
She's dancing. She's doing all the things.
But for our podcast, our studio is gone overnight.
Oh,
it's like,
literally overnight.
There's this external change that I can't do anything about. What are we going to do? And so we put Enjoy the Ride, the podcast, to bed. And time goes so fast when you're just enjoying the ride. I can't even remember how long we had it down, but then we had to make a change, and we decided to relaunch it. We had our media team at the time set up a studio in our house, and as we got ready for it, we decided to laser focus, right? We wanted to go to our client base.
Yes, it was something where it's like, what is our specialty? What are we putting all of our energy into? And it's the home improvement space. And so we wanted to curate the inner blueprint, remodel your mind for success. That's the name of our program. Turn it into a podcast and keep it laser focused. And as life happens, right, you up level. Change happens, and you look at it as, this is leading me closer to my goal or farther away. And we realize this is leading us way closer to our goal, and to our goal of our shared goal of $100 million worldwide training organization. And so it's so amazing that happened. And then now we're here. In this beautiful studio space, and with the support that we have.
Give them a shout out.
Bad Bet Productions,
there
you guys.
There we go.
They're the best.
They're in Salt Lake City,
We love
Utah.
them.
If you need a studio, they've got an amazing facility. We've got Diego, our good friend, that's producing it, helping us. I mean, look how good this looks. Anyone who's watched our podcast, this is amazing. And, we had to make some changes. Doing it at our home studio, we had equipment there. We had our amazing video guy, David, coming in and setting it up. And then he wasn't here in town, and we'd have issues, and I'm not a tech guy.
I am
and
not
it
on
became
video.
an effort. And again, where was the resistance coming from? It wasn't coming from me. It was coming from the external surrounding. We had to change it. Yeah. And I kind of want to tie in here too, though, because everything we do, because we're coaches in mindset, we're always looking for the area we can add a principle of mindset or take higher awareness. But the synchronicities, our video guide that helped us set up the podcast, Heidi with Wing It Productions, it was through a client that I said, I want a podcast. I thought I had to build it. No, just Shawn, drive to the studio. Boom, there it is. We go to a certified contractors event. They'd hired a video team. We met Diego back then.
Yep.
We met David, the video ninja back then. We ended up working with David on our media. Take it full circle. Diego is in Miami when we meet him. David's in Houston. All this movement, all this change around us without resistance. Diego's in Utah. We're having these issues. Kaitlin reaches out. He's like, I got a studio we just set up 15 minutes from your house. You can drive here once a month, record for 4 hours, and boom.
It goes back to, the goal can't change, but the plan will always change.
Yeah, the how. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I just know I'm going to do it. I've held it in my mind. I affirm it every day. And as I get in that energy, as I get in that space, I open the door for possibilities. So
now we're here.
This is
the Inner Blueprint.
Episode 1 again.
Again, right?
Yeah. So moving forward, Miss Kaitlin, we've kind of given a backstory. This podcast, this message is all about you, the listener, about listening to our guests, about listening to our message, and then taking it into your personal life and saying, okay, I've got these things going on around me. How can I go inside, think some better thoughts about these situations, create better responses, better feelings for me, and ultimately get better results? And that's what this podcast is all about.
Yeah, and it's not just a selfish thing. It's, this message is for you. If you're listening to this right now, there's a reason you're listening to it. And what I think, too, is that when we really dive in to that, we can drip it onto other people.
Yeah. I mean, if you're listening to this right now and you're in the home improvement space and you hear part of this that your wife should hear or somebody you love and care about, we talk about, and my big Inner Blueprint goal is that we have a $100 million personal development training organization designed for the home improvement space, just like this podcast, but with the ripple effect, helping millions of people worldwide remove self-limiting beliefs, the chains that hold us all back, so more people may live their lives in freedom, abundance, fun, and love. That is the ripple effect of the Inner Blueprint. It's a good message for this industry, but it's an amazing message,
For everyone.
the ripple effect. We have business owners that are men. They're better husbands today because of the work.
Absolutely.
Because of this podcast.
They're
because
better
of the
business
message.
owners.
Better fathers.
Better friends, better children, whatever role you are in your life, we all wear so many hats. And these principles we teach, this message we share, improves every area of your life. It really does.
It does. And Kaitlin, Inner Blueprint.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? What is your, and not your goal, but what is your inner blueprint? Who is that?
Inner Blueprint is the real me. It's the authentic me. It's the true me. It's reprogramming my subconscious to highlight who I am in all areas and be in my power at all times. And it's crazy because, as we say, and as we all know, our subconscious is programmed not by us, but by external forces, the language we speak, the foods we like to eat, how we view ourselves, our self-perception, our self-love. That's all programmed into us from external forces up until the ages of 8 is where it's really shown to be the most impactful and the most...
For the rest of your life.
What
tries to hang on to you.
Yeah, and so then you're running these programs on autopilot. It's like, it's like breathing. We don't think about breathing, but we just breathe. And so when I think the Inner Blueprint, I think what results in my life look good, what don't, and what is behind that, and how do I make that better?
So for you, Kaitlin, and I'm going to ask you to get vulnerable here, right?
Okay.
We go back and in the mindset work when we're coaching clients, we talk about, and I got this from Bob Proctor, when Miss Kaitlin was born, when she first entered this world as a newborn child, her inner blueprint was perfection. She was perfection. Her spiritual DNA was perfection. She was a beautiful baby girl, and she didn't have any limiting beliefs. She didn't know what language to speak. She didn't know what to believe about love, about beauty, about life. And then it got programmed into you. And for you, because when I met you almost 5 years ago, you didn't see your inner blueprint. You had a lot of, as from Jack Canfield's The Golden Buddha, your golden Buddha was covered in some mud and muck, right?
Definitely.
So what happened early in life to affect that?
There was a lot. So I wasn't raised by my birth mother. She went down a different path that included a lot of drug use. And so I was passed around quite a bit and didn't really understand what a steady family looked like. I didn't understand what a healthy relationship looked like. I did have examples of that growing up, but it wasn't the core people raising me. And so it was a lot of, I got to figure this out for myself.
Yeah, and so you were bounced around from, you had some beautiful, amazing aunts that loved and cared about you. Your dad definitely played a part.
Huge part, yeah.
But we talk about, as a newborn child, you get programmed by hearing things over and over again, and you get programmed by emotional events. And an emotional event of a beautiful baby girl having her mom leave her, I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy. Like the impression on the subconscious mind, that's huge. That's powerful. And that's not your inner blueprint. That's not who you are, right?
No, and that's been a lot of change for me, where I've really dove in to realize like my worth and my value isn't dependent on what I can do for others. But growing up, it was I have to do my best and be my best so that someone doesn't leave me again.
Or you don't have to move it. Like you were almost like a foster child from different family members, right? And if you didn't do everything what you felt was perfectly, and even when you did, when you got moved and we're now in a different house, at some level it's like, what did I do wrong? And the message is, I'm not enough.
100%.
I'm not enough, right?
100%. And you had a similar story.
I did. I started, being raised by a single mother. I know my birth father, he hates that I'm like, Dad, one day I'll let it go because I have a beautiful relationship with him today. But he left when I was 2, came back, him and my mom just couldn't work it out, left again when I was, 5.5, me and my baby sister. And him leaving had nothing to do with us, right?
No,
It
no,
had everything to do with what was going on with him, but I didn't know that then. It took me
no.
almost 50 years of life to come to this realization. So I was programmed with some of the same things. I'm not enough. People I love and care about are going to leave me. And I think we both did a pretty good job of getting decent results
Yeah,
by just sheer determination. Just let's
right.
work our asses off. And if we can build enough physical evidence on the outside that we're enough, maybe someday we'll feel like we're enough. But that didn't happen for me. Did it happen for you?
No, it definitely didn't happen for me, but it is happening now, right?
Yes.
Because when I realize I hold that power, right? External forces don't hold that power to me. I'm not a victim of my life. And I never had
You did
that
not. You
mentality
did
of I'm
not.
not a victim.
But you were a victor powering through with 100-pound bags of potatoes dragging all over the place. I
Which
mean,
is a lot for me because I'm like
you're
100 pounds. Like that's
yeah.
too much
Yeah,
for
you had
me.
more weight behind you than you had in your physical presence.
Yeah.
And that was heavy. And it was evident all over you when I met you. And for me, I had my breakthrough moment, I call it my awakening, my awareness, about 5 years before I met you. Actually, no, it was it 10 years before I actually met you? I can't even remember now. Time flies.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it was quite a while. And so I had been, when I met Miss Kaitlin, finding my inner blueprint, finding out the stories I told myself that weren't true, that weren't mine, that I was enough, that I was a good husband, that I was a good father, that I am an amazing business person. And when I met Miss Kaitlin, I mean, first of all, she's beautiful. She's smart. She's powerful. But you were told differently.
Oh, 100%. I was told I was too much. It constantly, oh, you're annoying. You need to tone it down. Like, calm down, calm down. Like, you can't be real. You can't really be this happy and positive and excited all the time. And I was like, yeah, I am. Because instead of, seeing the results in my life of others, I learned I taught myself and I learned a lot of what not to do. And
Yeah.
so I would just do the opposite. But it wasn't programmed in me that way. I had to program that into myself. And so it's something that to this day, I still thrive off negative reinforcement. Tell me I can't do something. I'm going to show you 25 ways that I can. And, I know so many people are like that. It's a beautiful thing about me, but it also holds me back in ways, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the focus on this, and the reason we're sharing with you listeners is if you're going to listen to this podcast, I feel like you need a good understanding of what the inner blueprint is. And that's you. It's original you. It's powerful you. And for most of us, Kayla and I are sharing some of our challenging in the home improvement industry specifically, and contractors. A lot of my clients, a lot of my friends, they grew up in broken homes.
Yes.
They grew up in scarcity. They were poor. They had scarcity programmed into them by emotional events, by hearing over and over, money doesn't grow on trees. You got to work harder. And that serves all of us up to a point.
Yeah.
And then it starts holding us back. And, Miss Kaitlin and I, as your hosts, as your guides, we're sharing a little bit about our program, but this isn't an infomercial for the program. It's our free message to get the word out there of, hey, you have an inner blueprint. And for you to live your highest purpose, your best life, let's get rid of the BS. Let's peel it off. It's like the layers of the onion. And we're still doing it. It's not like we had this aha and now we fixed ourselves.
We're perfect now. We figured it out.
we still, I mean, one of your programs when I met you was that if you didn't use all your talents, you were going to lose them.
It's still something I struggle with this day. I truly have this inner dialogue going. Part of this paradigm that I hold that is if I don't utilize all my talents, I will lose them.
And you valued taking care of other people more than you valued yourself. And so you used
100%.
all these talents. I mean, when I met Kaitlin, she was driving from North Salt Lake to the copper mines.
Out in Harriman, basically,
Clear
yeah.
out in the boonies, up to Cottonwood Heights to my house sometimes, to Midvale. I mean, if you guys aren't familiar with the state of Utah, this is like 20 to 30 minutes. And I guess for outside of the state of Utah, that might be a normal commute.
Yeah, in California,
you
guys,
get anywhere in
normal.
Utah in 5 to 10 minutes, right? And this woman was going all these different places, being a mom, being a cheer coach, being a sales consultant, on the side, going back and coaching side gigs
private
for lessons
and photography.
Going on weekends and Sundays. I mean, literally, my first thought was, what do you do for you? Like, when do you have any time? And then how are you going to have time for me in your life? I don't see any time for me in your life, right?
It's true.
What's different today? What did you start evaluating to find your inner blueprint?
What truly makes me happy? What do I actually want to do? Not what do I think other people want me to do? Not what do I feel like I have to do, but what do I want to do? Because it goes back to the analogy of your bucket being full. And everybody always says you can never fill from an empty bucket. And I hated that. I hated that term because I thought even if my bucket's not full, I can still fill someone else's from it.
And
it
you
was,
were trying, but it
I
wasn't
was
working.
scraping the bottom of that bucket constantly just to be able to pour something into others. And, I have this belief too that I'm constantly working to reprogram is I'm a much happier person than most people in this world.
You're very optimistic.
I'm
and
very
positive,
optimistic.
yes.
And so I thought it takes less for me to be happy because I'm always happy than it does for others. And so I have to do more for these other people to get them to be happy, to get to my level. And it's draining. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much that when my bucket is overflowing, it effortlessly fills others. Like Anthony was telling me, who works for Pond. He's like, I don't even think of a bucket when you say that. I think of a champagne tower. And you're just taking that champagne and you're pouring it into your glass and it's just filling up all the others. And that is how I live life now. And some people call it selfish. A lot of relationships in my life that were based on what I could do for others and putting myself on the back burner and self-sacrificing constantly, a lot of those relationships left.
Yeah.
And
that's hard because you love and care about all those people. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in both of our lives that we don't have the daily communication that we would love. And their story, based on their inner blueprint or their programmed blueprint, might be that we're selfish people, that we're even bad people. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
But no, because when I choose me, when you choose you, then we're like that champ. I love that analogy, especially thinking about our wedding in the champagne tower. And it's like, there's enough for everybody. When there's enough of me, I don't show up in a situation needing anything from you.
No.
And I think sometimes in communication, I have people that I love and care about that I've reached out to, expressing love, maybe a challenging situation, and they receive it as I'm looking for validation from them or I need something from them. And I don't.
It's not the case at all. And it's so funny, but it goes back to, and, people can only perceive to the level of their self-perception. They can only love to the level of their self-love. They can only, their awareness of a situation is only viewed through their filter. And so,
and it's not their original filter. It's not their inner blueprint. It's not their self-love. It's not their confidence. It's not their enoughness.
Yeah.
It's at some level. I love sharing this, with our daughters. Like Hallie's 15 years old, beautiful, powerful young woman. But her and almost all her classmates in her beautiful high school, they all think they're not enough. They get told that on their report cards by their parents,
by their coaches,
in their coaching,
by their friends, things like that. By a boy that breaks up with her, like, I doesn't work anymore. It's not you, it's me, whatever, right?
Well, occasionally when I drop her off at school, I say, Hallie, do you remember what you and all these other kiddos have in common? Yes, we all just want to be enough. And are you enough? Yes, I'm enough. I think for me, and again, this inner blueprint message that we're sharing on this podcast, if you like it, you get to share it. You get to share it. We call it dripping on people that you love and care about. And I feel like Kaitlin and I have done a really good job with our daughters of dripping this message. Yeah. I remember last summer, our daughter Hallie's sitting at the kitchen counter and she's texting while we're eating lunch and she's got tears running down her face. And I'm like, Hallie, are you okay? And she goes, yeah, I'm fine. And I said, what are you doing? She goes, I'm breaking up with my boyfriend. And I said, okay. I said, why? And she goes, I just need to focus on loving myself more before I can have a boyfriend or do this. I just have to love myself more. And I thought, what awareness, because a lot of teenage girls are looking for a boyfriend to get validation. And she is looking for her inner blueprint. She's like, this relationship that I'm having with this boy isn't making me feel my best self. And I need to feel my best self and I need to love myself before I have anything to give away.
Well, and it was so crazy because that was something I didn't learn until I was 34.
Yeah.
And here she was at 15 or 14 at the time.
Winning.
And I was like, it was such a dichotomy of, oh my gosh, I hate that my daughter's feeling this way, but I am so proud of her for that, because it would be easier to stay with the boyfriend or stay in a relationship that is kind of working, but you're not fully satisfied in, you're not fully complete in, and realizing I'm not putting myself first, and some people in this world would say, I don't want to live in a world where everybody puts themselves first. But if I don't put myself first, if you don't put yourself first, who can? Who does?
And they can't see that world, because I've seen when Miss Kaitlin takes care of herself first, you give so much love and compassion and support to so many people that the person that says, I can't imagine that world, it's because they can't imagine that world, because that's a beautiful world. It's something this world is not programmed to receive right now. Competition is low level mindset. And if I'm competing, trying to take care of myself and just myself, that's not going to end up in a good place, a good space. But if I'm taking care of myself and planned on collaborating, sharing, growing, creating with other people, that's the most powerful thing we can do. And this is the inner blueprint message that we're trying to get across. Again, we're setting the stage. We want to be very intentional. In mindset, you set intention, and then your mind goes to work. And with this podcast, we're setting an intention. We're fine-tuning. We've had a few episodes with the inner blueprint. We've got a new studio. We've got different mindset even from a week ago because we're always working on it.
Always.
And we really want to set the intention that for you listening to this, we're going to promise you guests that have been very successful. They've also overcome challenges. And they're going to share the message of how they worked through it. And as coaches and facilitators of mindset training, we're going to be the guides. Yeah. We're going to pull things out. We're going to say, hey, did you just hear that? Did you hear what this individual, and sometimes we call them unconscious competence. A powerful individual does a powerful mindset move without being aware of it, without understanding the full concept. And I mean, it's all about awareness, right? We talk about it all the time. Its first step is awareness, being aware of how your mind works, being aware of how it's programmed, being aware of what's limiting you from the inside out, and then going to work.
Yeah, just being aware of how you show up and why you show up.
Yeah.
And when you start diving into that, your life starts to change. As long as you have that growth mindset, you know, that so many of us share and that we are teaching to others, that, you know, you're either growing or you're dying. There's no in between. So many people in this world, you know, they like to plan their work and work their plan. They go to the same restaurants. They have the same routine every day, and they just think nothing's going to change, right?
And I'm good. And Shawn, I don't need to get better because I'm good. The problem with being stuck in good
is the enemy of great.
It is. You're not growing and you're actually dying. I remember listening to my mentor, Bob Proctor, from the stage powerfully say, if you don't believe you're either growing or you're dying, think of when you actually die and they put you in a wooden box in the ground, he said. You continue to disintegrate to dust, right?
Yeah.
We are energy. We're up to 99% empty space filled with energy in our bodies. And if that energy isn't growing, it's not staying the same. Everything in this universe is in motion all the time. Going back to what we started this episode, that's why change is a constant, because even inside of me right now, there is change happening. My cells are moving. My fingernails are growing. My hair is sprouting.
Absolutely.
But there is this constant change. And again, better understanding of change. Mm-hmm. Outside, inside. What's going on? How can I avoid creating resistance? How can I take something that just is and could be perceived as bad and make it good for me? I mean, we look at our business. Some of the things with the podcast could have been bad. Hasn't been. Just is.
Yeah.
New studio, new producer. Just getting better every single time. It's like, you know, what's your mantra? Let's explain that for a second. What do you say every morning?
How does it get better?
Yeah.
I always say, how does it get better? I mean, I look over at you and I say, how does it get better? And it's so funny. This is something that was taught to me back in 2020. I was going through an impact training. It's where we met. And I was feeling so good, right? I just felt like, wow.
This is it.
This is it. Like, this is so great. I always want to feel like this. Like, I'm me and I'm being seen for who I am. I'm being celebrated for who I am. I'm able to celebrate others in this space so easily. It's like a constant, like, overflowing of love. And it was so great. And I looked at someone, I said, how do you keep this? You know, we're programmed, especially in American culture, that we're always waiting for the bad to happen.
The other shoe to drop.
The
It
other
just
shoe
got
to
good.
drop.
Where's the next challenge coming
Yes.
from?
And so, you know, this is too good to be true, right? How many times do people say this is too good to be true? And instead of going, well, this is really good, and kind of expecting for something bad to happen, because when we do that, bad things do happen, because we are either creating or allowing everything in our life. Whether you think you are or not, you are. You are either creating it or allowing it.
Creating or allowing. Listen there. That's an important mindset concept that we live.
Yes.
You know, if there's something in my experience that I don't like, I have to analyze, did I create this or am I just allowing it?
Yeah.
And either way, I have control of both of those things, right?
Well, and it's so crazy too, because he said, you just ask yourself every day, how does it get better? And so that is something I started doing then.
Yeah, I remember you shared that.
Yeah.
And
that day, I couldn't
before we started
wait.
dating, we were just, cultivating our friendship. And I remember you came back and you were so jacked and so excited. And you're like, I have a new mantra.
Yep. How does it get better? And it's so funny because we ask people that all the time. We ask people that constantly. And to the point that even at our wedding this year, my sister flew in from Texas with her partner. And at one point, one of the people, Matt Blanchard, giving the speech said, all right, and how does it get better? And he held the mic up, and the entire 100-something people that were there yelled, "It just does."
It just does.
And Travis said to Mariah, "Is this a cult wedding? What is happening here?" Because it is something that we don't just say we live by, and we teach others to live by that too. And life just keeps getting better because how does it get better? It just does.
We create the expectation.
Yes.
And it is funny because if anyone that works with us as a client, I have to train them that if they text me, call me, and they share a huge win, the first response from me is going to be, "That's amazing. How does it get better?" And we say that with gratitude for what it is, but we're trying to create. We had
excitement.
We had a new client, Ryan Peterson, top rep. He
Yeah.
had $2 million for the year. For the company, that's the most that's ever been sold by an individual. And he's new to our program, new to work with me, and he texts me what he'd done, and I literally text him back, "Amazing, man. How does it get better?" And his response was, "What do you mean?" Literally, "What do you mean?" Like he didn't know how to receive that because how does it get better? I just told you how good it is. Like this is the best I've ever done. And you're asking me
I just broke a record. What do you mean? It doesn't get better than this. But yes,
it
it does.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it does.
And again, an important part of this, I give gratitude for every win. And I always say there's no such thing. I mean, to me today, a win was that I woke up with air in my lungs and the sun came up, and the simplest thing, that's a win. Yeah. And I get to celebrate that. And I get to give gratitude for my beautiful home that I live in, my beautiful wife, this beautiful studio that we get to come to. But in that gratitude, I'm not going to limit myself saying, "You know what, Kaitlin, we've arrived.
Good. We're good.
We're just going to ride this out for the next 50 years until I'm a happy, healthy 100, and I don't deserve anymore."
Yeah.
No, we deserve anything and everything that we're willing to hold in our mind, that we're willing to do the work. It's not easy. The law of attraction we talk about a lot, it ends in action. We're going to have to take action. Without purpose and meaning and work, we'd be bored. So we're always going to put in the work. We're always going to continue. And this podcast, again, that is the message. Your inner blueprint is finding original you. And then once you find original you, then you get to decide, what do you want? What do you want to do with this newfound power? You can dream again. You can set loftier goals than you've ever set. You can start working towards them first in your mind and then in the physical world.
Well, and that's, another term that was taught to me is it is what it is, right? And I think people have different perceptions of what that means. I actually didn't like that term when it was taught to me. Like, it is what it is.
But what if it's not good? What if it's like something you don't want?
And I was like, no, I understand that, this is what it is, but it's not what it's going to be, right? And so it's, yes, things are, it is what it is, but instead of getting caught in what it is, it's, this is what it is, and what do I want to make better? Where do I want to go from this?
I mean, for me, one of my most powerful awakenings, changes was being able to approach challenging things, because you look back, over the last decade, I had some business failures.
Yeah.
I had some personal real estate failures.
Yep.
I had some relationship failures. I went through divorce. I had some family relation failures by losing both my parents way too young.
And your brother. This
April, I lost my younger brother. Those are challenging things that in the moment, if you said it is what it is, I'd say, yeah, it is, and it sucks.
Yeah.
It's shitty. I don't like it. I don't want it. But in every one of those moments, and not always in the present as it was happening, but within a very short time after, I've been able to, with an awareness, saying, it isn't just it is, it's what I'm going to make out of it. And for every challenge that could have been perceived as bad, as challenging, as hard, as Shawn, what did you do to deserve that?
Oh, and how many people have said those things to you? Like, I just feel so sorry for you, man. When it comes to things like that.
I had a distant family member of mine tell me, Shawn, I just feel bad for people like you. I know you're going to have it good in the next life. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I have it good in this life. I've had some, God said, Shawn, you're strong. I'm going to throw you some weights. And it was up to me to lift them. And using my inner blueprint, using the support system of, our coaching program, of the friends we make, even this audience, I am going to throw this out. If you're listening to this message and you have questions, you have topics you'd like to hear us. I mean, we are experts on mindset. We study, we live this every day. Together we've trained under Jack Canfield, Patty Aubrey with the Canfield organization, Mr. Bob Proctor, in my industry, Charlie Gindell, the legend of the home improvement industry award winner a year ago. He's been my mentor for 20 years. I've listened, I've watched. And as we've studied, Grant Masmanian, we both worked with behavior analysis. We've studied under him, and we've taken all this learning, all this knowing, and we've put it into this message. We've put it into this podcast. And we're giving it away. If you tune in, we're going to give it away to you. As much as we can give you, high level value, the guests we have lined up, powerhouses in the industry, not only in success, but in overcoming challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, Miss Kaitlin, how does it get better?
It just does. It just does. And I expect it every single day too. And some days feel like, holy shit, how is this better? But then I get to take a higher awareness. I get to take like that bird's eye view of what is happening and realize, okay, right now it might not feel like it's getting better, but in a few days, maybe a few hours, maybe a few minutes, maybe a little bit longer than that, it is all happening for me, and it's so much better than I could have even imagined. And so that's another thing too, when we look at those results in our life and we look at our inner blueprint that's driving those results of realizing, like, if I feel like this is not a good thing happening to me right now, where can I go inside and make it a good thing?
And if it's challenging me, why is it challenging me, and how is it going to make me stronger?
Why do I not think this is a good thing? Why do I not think this is a good thing? What inside me is telling me that it's not? Because so far, my success rate is 100%.
You overcome every challenge.
Every challenge.
Very difficult ones.
Just like you listening right now, every single event that's happened to you, every challenge, every struggle, your success rate is 100%. You're here listening right now. So you have a very, very strong success rate, 100%. And so that's something just to remember too. Is
I mean, your chance of being a human being, I can't remember the odds, but the odds of you making it to a pregnancy and becoming a fetus inside of your mother was like 1,000,000 to 1, right? Like the chances, we are survivors. We are designed. And for you, once you enter this beautiful world, you had challenge from the day you were born.
Yeah.
From the day you were born.
Yeah.
I had challenge. And that's what makes us who we are. And again, when we give ourselves permission to let some of that stuff go and say, that just happened for me, made me stronger, made me better. Just to give some credit, and I do like to give purpose to my younger brother, Ryan Foyer. I love that kid. Growing up, I remember watching him. He was 9 years younger than me, and I thought, gosh, damn, this kid, he's probably better looking than me. Blonde hair, brown eyes, just a good-looking kid, smart as a tack. He'd memorize the sports page. At 12 years old, I'd play video games with him to connect with him, and he's telling me the stats of all these baseball players, and he was going to be a sportscaster. He had the gift of gab. He was smart. He had a good voice. He was good-looking. He had things happen. I remember him getting jumped in middle school, getting beat up. I remember him having things with my parents where they disagreed. He had these programs that he wasn't enough, that he wasn't worthy. And at some point, he turned to substance to try to numb some of that pain. And what started in high school continued into his 20s, into his 30s. And he ended up the last 3 years of his life with all the love and support of so many people, homeless in Las Vegas for 3 years. Killed my big brother hard. I'd occasionally send him money. Mostly I sent him tents and DoorDash food once in a while and tried to encourage him to get clean. I gave him affirmations. I gave him goals. And on April 19th of this year, I got the phone call around midnight from my younger sister that she got a message from
the coroner's
office in Nevada that they'd found his body on the side of a gas station in Las Vegas, Nevada. Not a possession on him. He had a watch on his wrist, nothing in his pockets, and he left this planet. And to me, that's sad. Could be called tragic. I'm finding purpose in it. His life has to have meaning for me. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is, and I want to make it good. And my little brother, he never found his inner blueprint. He never found self-love. He never found purpose for life. And I use him. I have brothers I work with in coaching, and one of them will be complaining about the other one. I'll say, you want to talk about my brother? You want to give you some context, some perception here? Your brother shows up every day. Your brother doesn't have a drug problem. And for me, that's how I take a situation that is challenging. Mm-hmm. There is loss. I'm still grieving. It happened in April. I still wake up sad. I've got a song that I hear that will still bring tears to my eyes, thinking about, and I go back to his inner blueprint. I see see the beautiful little kid that had his whole life ahead of him. And he didn't find his path, and he didn't find his inner blueprint. And again, the ripple effect of this podcast has a purpose higher than me, higher than Miss Kaitlin. It's the work that we do delivering this message of, hey, you're programmed. Life programmed you and patterned you with some negative shit. And this negative shit isn't yours, didn't come from you, isn't true for you. Let's find a path to release it. And hopefully, if we do our jobs, the message you hear every week will give you different layers to look into. E plus R equals O, the power of affirmation, the power of intention, using your powerful mind, interacting with the laws of the universe.
Yep.
That's how we found our superpowers, right, Miss Kaitlin?
That's it. It's what my purpose is to bring higher awareness to others to live their best lives.
Yeah. And I think we're doing a pretty good job. And I'm just so excited to be here in this studio, to be sharing our stories, to be sharing our message. What else do you have to add to that? Anything else? I mean, I think we're just ready to start rolling. Let's get some episodes up. We're going to drop this one as the reintroduction of this podcast. Hopefully we're inspiring you with some of the sharing we're doing today.
Yes.
I mean, the good news is you have the power to change it. I remember it's been quite a few years ago that I had my aha moment where I woke up in struggle. When I coach people and talk about it, I say we're working on this power trifecta. 3 things that I set purpose on: better finances, better health and wellness, and better relationship with self, so I get better relationships around me. And when I started this process for myself from about 2014 to 2016, scale of 1 to 10 on those 3 areas, I was a 2.
Yeah.
I was broke, I was sick, and I was pretty much all alone, and I really didn't like myself very much. And I remember finding Bob Proctor's material and diving into how I was programmed, how those 2 out of 10s got set in me. I was mad. You've heard me talk about it before. I was like, this is bullshit. Here I am in my 40s, college degree, life experience, and nobody told me that I'm literally living this miserable experience right now because I'm running programming that was put into me by loving parents, coaches, friends, experiences. I spent a couple of days, maybe even weeks, if I'm honest, in the weeds, being frustrated, being mad. And then I went to empowerment. I said, okay, if I could live a pretty decent life for 40 years, in spite of these things that aren't mine, what if I take control? What if I set an intention? What if I set a goal? What if I identify the programs and patterns that are in me that aren't serving me and aren't true? And I come up with some powerful I am statements that I say every single day. 5 years before I met Miss Kaitlin, I thought I was a shitty dad. I thought I was a shitty husband. I thought I was a shitty. I had a yellow notepad that I would write every day. I am an amazing husband. I am an amazing father. I'm an amazing, successful business person. At the time I said those and wrote those down, they weren't true. Evidence would say not, Shawn. You're broke, you're divorced, you're not doing very well. And it would reinforce those negative beliefs. But I wrote them, I said them every day. And when I met Miss Kaitlin, I wasn't looking for her at the time. I was doing the inside work. And I knew I was a good husband. And I knew I was a good dad. And I knew when the right opportunity presented itself, not knowing it was right in front of me from the first meeting. That's the work, you guys. That's what finding your inner blueprint is about. And again, we're here to take you on a journey through this podcast, through this message,
through the tips and tricks we'll share with each episode.
I don't know, Miss Kaitlin. I just got to ask you one question before we sign off.
And what is it?
How does it get better?
It just does, and I can't wait to see.
It just did. This is episode 1 of the rebranding. If you like what you hear here, our only ask is please share the message. Please subscribe. And if you have questions, comments, submit them to us. Our website is ShawnFoyer.com. You can send us an email at coach@ShawnFoyer.com. It'll be in the text. We hope to have you tune in every week as we deliver these messages, these stories of hope, of success. And overall, we just want to help you enjoy the ride. It's a good one. Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast. I'm Shawn Foyer, the Universal Mindset Disruptor. With over 20 years of turning blueprints into thriving home improvement businesses, I've learned that the strongest foundations start in your mind. Whether you're building a business or your own success, we're here to reshape how you think and face daily life and always remind you to enjoy the ride.